Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting. It is 4 o'clock. This is the Solid Waste Advisory Commission meeting, a regular meeting for October 27th, 2021. And we'll start with roll call. Indicate if you are present by saying here or something. Kaylee Philippi.
Here. Here.
Meg Larson.
Here.
Mark Nelson.
Here.
Rochelle, I'm sorry, Rand Spiewak.
Here.
Scott Walters.
Here.
Sean Keating.
Here.
Steve Corey here. Karen Richmond. Okay, Tom Oddie
Here.
and Taryn Richmond. We can see you're here, so we'll go ahead and mark you as present. So now I'll move on to ex officio members. Rochelle Klein
Here.
and Councilwoman Liz Strader. Quorum being present, we'll go ahead and move into the meeting. And the first item on the agenda, well, wait a second. Before we go to the adoption of the agenda, I want to introduce a new SWAC member. We have our MIAC representative, Kaylee Philippi. And Kaylee, would you take a couple seconds or a couple minutes to go ahead and introduce yourself?
So I'm Kaylee and I'm a senior at Rocky Mountain and I do like track and field, like I do the throwing. So that's fun. I'm just really excited to serve my community and get involved. So, thank you.
Well, welcome very much. And we definitely have very much enjoyed our MIAC members. We definitely encourage you to be involved. And if you've got any questions about our process for the many things we do, feel free to ask any commissioner or staff, because we are an active commission. And like I say, new ideas are wonderful.
Thank you.
So with that, we'll move on to adoption of the agenda. Are there any comments on the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I would move that we add an update on Rake Up Meridian under program report as item number 3. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the agenda be amended to go ahead and add a new item in the program report for Rake Up Meridian, an update. Are there further comments? Sensing the commission is ready for a vote, all those in favor of approving the amended agenda signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? The motion passes. Thank you. And so next on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Are there any comments on the draft minutes?
Mr. Chair, I'd move that we approve the minutes as written.
Been moved and seconded that the draft minutes from the September 22nd meeting be approved as written. Is there further comments? Sensing the commission is ready for a vote, all those in favor of approving the draft minutes as written signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? The motion passes. Thank you. With that, we move into program reports. And the first item under program reports is Republic Services FY22 rate update, council approval. Sarah?
Yeah, so on September 28th, the council had a work session and they, in their consent agenda, they approved the rate increase. Just an FYI on that, just an update.
Thank you. And are there two items that were highlighted or noted? One of them being the labor rate increase portion. And then the second one being a continuation of the recycling fee.
Yeah, both of them were.
Okay, so those are both just one-year items that'll come back to us next year.
Yes, that's right.
Members of the commission, do you have any questions of the report you've heard from Sarah?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Rand.
if we go back to the minutes of special meeting on August 11th, when the commission first discussed this, and Tom had made his motion to approve, what have you. But one of the things that was left out of the minutes is there was a discussion about a small committee being formed, or a committee of the whole, to review that contract sometime this year. Have you talked about or thought about a date that would start, since we're not going to be meeting for the next 3 months?
In answer to your question, no, I have not. And I think
Sure want to give ourselves enough time so that we can present whatever we have to staff, so that they have time to respond before we're at the renewal of the next.
yeah, totally agree. So, yes. Hey, yes, Rand.
That's fine and good, but since we represent the taxpayer, not the staff, I think it's something that we should, as a commission, at least give some ideas on things that we observe that might want to be considered by Public Works.
Bill, can you tell me, give me some indication of the timing? Is it likely that council will go ahead and
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Public Works has, I would say we are 75% done with an analysis of the contract. There are some further financial implications that we need to gather data on to make sure that it's a fully inclusive report. We anticipate that within the first quarter of the year, we will be able to have something to move forward to council and present, so that all thoughts on this can be done before we reach our next rate discussion.
So would it be appropriate if someone has some observations that they have to make those available to you for consideration in the report?
That would be great. we welcome all information and feedback.
So commissioners, and I guess this is an individual thing, if you feel like there's something that you want to be considered in this review of the status we've got on contracting and our franchise with Republic Services, please provide those via email to Sayard so that, and I would say needs to be delivered to you. Is Thanksgiving too late? Maybe November 15th?
Oh, Thanksgiving will be fine.
Thanksgiving. Okay, so you have a month to go ahead and do that. But yes, each commissioner is encouraged if they've got an observation in relationship to our contract situation and franchise agreement to go ahead and present those to staff. I see Taryn's got her hand raised. I'm assuming that means you want to go ahead and comment.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Keating.
I don't know if she was wanting to know the same thing, but Bill, when he was talking, I think his microphone was not on, so we could not hear him.
So can you hear this? Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can.
Sorry, I don't know if this needs to be activated for this to work. I don't have a clue how this works, so.
I don't either.
Okay, anyway, I'll just talk from here today. So anyway, to repeat what I said, so the city council, so this conversation came up as part of the discussion on the rates and varieties of issues. Again, consolidating the contracts, services, service levels, expectations, price, all these things. And so the council asked the question of both the staff as well as legal is when is the right time to have this conversation with the Republic? Because as I informed them, this is not a surprise. I mean, we've been talking about this for a number of years, that we should look at this and what's the strategy and methodology to do that. So what the council was told by Public Works is that they were in the midst of a study to provide some data points to the council to then have them discuss and direct where they wanted to go. Is that a conversation they want to then have this commission take the lead in working with staff for that? Do they want the council to take the lead? And whatever they want, they'll come back and vet with the Solid Waste Commission. I don't think any of that's been determined at all. So what they agreed to do was simply wait while Public Works continues this process and this study to get some data points. And so definitely the commissioners are welcome to provide information to Public Works through Joanna, through Sayard, that can be considered as part of what they're looking at. I don't think there's any issue or problem with that, but definitely the council's really taking the lead here and just determine the direction they want to go. So I wouldn't want the commission to waste a lot of time on either creating a subgroup and trying to find meeting times and trying to connect together to put something together when the council hasn't directed that we do anything. So they're waiting, and they're waiting on Public Works. So I think participating with Public Works is probably the fastest route to participation here. So.
Commissioner Richmond, I believe you had a
Thank you.
comment. Any commissioners, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, so an additional assignment, if you've got anything that you want considered in relationship to our franchise agreement, our contract with Republic Services, get that by email to Sayard by Thanksgiving. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to Rake Up Meridian. Conrad?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, good afternoon. Thank you for the time. My name's Conrad McDaniel. I'm employed by Republic Services and located at 2130 West Franklin Road in Meridian. And every time about this time of year, well, it's leaf season. We're into that. And in addition, it is a program for the community called Rake Up Meridian. And it's a thing I organize with other partners at the city to get volunteers together and go out and rake up leaves at the houses of senior citizens and those physically unable to rake the leaves. And this year, we are getting ready to kick off Rake Up Meridian. Leaf bag handout starts tomorrow and runs through Saturday. And we have 52 groups signed up, and they will rake leaves at 184 houses in the city, filling 4,000 leaf bags. Yes, very cool. Every year it seems to grow by 5 to 10%. So it's nice to see so many people willing to get out there and give back to the community. And they do have the opportunity to select what day they go out and rake up leaves. It doesn't happen just one day. In fact, if they can choose any day during leaf pickup when we have the leaf pickup trucks going. So it's recommended that they select a day before the last weekend of that. So the bags can be placed on the curb for at least the last week of leaf truck routes. And that's my report. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to ask Conrad a couple of things. Just to let the SWAC know that we buy the bags each year. And, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Rochelle. Yeah, a couple of things I forgot to mention. One would be thank you to Home Depot. They give us a community program discount of 10%, and Republic Services purchases the bags from them. And I believe this year, I don't have the invoice on me, but I want to say it was $1,800 to purchase the bags. And last year was 3,000 bags, this year 4,000 bags. So, you know, it always trends upward. We're always buying more bags. But the bags have to get from Home Depot to the location where I sort the bags. And this program wouldn't be possible without the help and support of Meridian Parks and Recreation. So they transport the bags from Home Depot to their yard on Lanark Street and give me the space and a trailer and anything I need to get that job done. And then also I need to mention a special thank you to Shelly Houston with Meridian City Parks and Rec. She is the behind the scenes helper for me and helps get the word out, get people signed up, and takes calls from the public about the program. And she will be there with her sister handing out bags on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So a big shout out to Meridian Parks and Recs. This program would be a million times harder to run without their support.
I just want to say thank you. My daughter participated in this years ago when she was in junior high and high school, and I know it's a great program, and thank you for running that.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Walters, thank you for saying that, and please share your thanks with your daughter. I took over this program, I think 2013, 2014. So I don't know if that covers when your daughter did it, but yes, we have many groups with schools, churches, businesses, families that want to participate. So I take and welcome all groups, and many of them return every year. So it's always nice to see. Couldn't do it without the support of the community. That's for sure.
Additional comments or questions of Conrad? Commissioner Spilwick.
Thanks. My neighbors have been picking up the ash leaves that have been falling for a couple of weeks now in these big contractor bags that you could really stuff. And I asked them, why aren't you using the paper ones? Because that's what is biodegradable, and the city will, or the Republic will pick those up. I think it starts in November. It's on the webpage. And their answer was they're too blankety blank small and you can't fill them. You can't shove them down because they'll tear. Are those the only size we can get for paper, or any larger doesn't hold up, or what?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Spywak, thank you for that comment. As far as I know, it's only the 5-gallon bags. I think they're 5-gallon, aren't they? They're 30. Yeah, they're quite large. I haven't seen one any bigger than that. And that full 30-gallon bag is pretty heavy on its own to lift. I can't imagine anyone wanting to lift a bag heavier than that.
Well, they're filling the contractor bags, I think, are 55-gallon, and you can tie the top shut on the paper. I guess you fold it down. So you could get 3 of those paper ones inside one contractor. So people weren't buying those. They were using the plastic ones. And I reminded them, those don't do any good in our landfill. But they're still doing it. I've watched people will take them out to the transfer station, but they are required to empty them out there and then take the bag back. So they're not hitting the landfill that way unless they put them in their garbage cans. And some of them are doing that.
Yeah, certainly. And my Rake Up Meridian groups are all provided the craft paper 30-gallon bags and encouraged to bring extras if they can, and discouraged from using any plastic contractor bags. So yeah, these bags are intended to be part of the compost leaf program.
Right, Mr. Chairman and Dr. Spivak, and to add to what Conrad's saying too, we've tried to accommodate all the different, households. And so what we've done is, I think, what do we have, Sarah, 8 drop sites or 9?
Yeah.
9 drop sites.
Yeah, 9 parks.
And they're open 24/7. So if customers wanted to even fill their black contractor bag and dump it loose, or use a tarp and not buy any bags, they could just, put them on a tarp and close the tarp and dump them in loose. Those are available 24/7. And the city's done a pretty good job finding places on the beaten path, like close to homes and stuff. So they wouldn't have to even drive to the transfer station. But yeah, I think the contractor, the craft paper bags are standard size everywhere. So that's the only one that we've ever seen, actually. So I don't know if they would make a bigger one or if it would be possible to lift it. It's not bad when the leaves are dry, but once the rains come, those bags get really heavy.
Mr. Chair. Commissioner Spivak, your neighbors could also enroll in the grass collection service, and then they could use their cart to put their leaves in.
A couple of them do.
That's perfect. Me too.
Nice upsell, Commissioner Adi.
Any further comments or questions of Conrad on the Rake Up Meridian? Thank you for the report, Conrad.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
With that, we'll move into old business. And the first item under old business is squishy water bottle outreach and budget request. The yard.
Sorry, I'm trying to get it to work. There we go. So yeah, I'm basically for this portion, going to talk about specifically outreach for the Squishy Water Bottle program to really get it going, since we did extend it for the next fiscal year. I have, one second. Two, besides the normal outreach outlets that we use, I am advocating for 2 additional outlets for the year. The first one is it's printed material, and it would be a flyer front and back mailed out to every single resident in the city. So we roughly have 47,885 residents, and that includes multi-use residents. A reason why I'm not advocating so much for the billing insert is because it doesn't reach all residents. It doesn't reach multi-unit residents. And I got some information from MUBS. They have right now, for their residential accounts, recycling and trash accounts, 42,707 accounts. So not all MUDs, multi-unit families, even have recycling. So they really do rely on the transfer station. So if we go by MUDs, 42,000 accounts, then a little over 14,000 have direct pay. So they just automatically pay their bill. So they don't even look at this billing insert. And then additionally, some people have opted out of paper bills. So they have e-bills, and that's almost 8,000. So if you subtract those 2 individuals, you have who actually get the insert, 20,710 households. That's less than half of the households of the city of Meridian that get our outreach via the billing insert. So I think to really push the understanding of what is available at the transfer station, glass, in addition to the Squishy Water Bottle program that is unique to this city. Boise doesn't have that. In addition to having a recycling guide on the opposite page, as you're looking at the PowerPoint, one side could be the transfer station and the other side could be a recycling guide. This is just an example of a recycling guide. It's not one that's not ours. And the mailing and the printing, depending on the weight of the paper, the total price would be around $13,935. However, I did talk to Republic Services Rochelle earlier today, and she believes that she could get a quote for this total package that's cheaper. However, she still needs to look into that. So that's kind of on hold right now. And I can take questions now on this specific one, or I can take it at the end after I go to the next. I only have 3 slides. I'll go to the next one. So the next idea is story stroll. And this one would be more in the summertime, spring. And I got a quote for 10-yard signs with stakes, front and back printing would be $150. And we could talk about the transfer station, plastic water bottles, also, the banes of the MRF plastic bags. And we could basically tell the story, informing people. And we could have a few of these or just one, and we can move it throughout the parks during the summertime. So this is just an example of, as someone's walking down the path, they could read about recycling. So these are my 2 request options that I have in addition to our normal, social media outlets. And then actually real fast, we only have 1,500 followers on Facebook. So I think doing these 2 options could really reach a wide households of our community. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roddy.
Mr. Neri, is this something that we could use the community recycle fund to pay for since this directly comes to recycling?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, yes, certainly that's something that you could propose to do, yes.
Mr. Chair. Zaire, is that your goal to use community recycle funds for this?
Yes, that's my goal and my ask.
That's phenomenal.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any comments or questions of Sarah on the information that's been presented?
Mr. Chair, Sarah, is this a budget revision for FY22 that you're proposing or an FY23 request?
This would be FY22. In addition to, I think you agreed to do the pilot project one more year for our $2,000 budget. This would be an amendment in addition to just running the program at the transfer station, would be attaching outreach to that. And this would be something that the flyer, I'd want to work on and get that out at the beginning of the year. And then the story stroll obviously would be later on when it's nicer out and you have more people in the parks.
Mr. Chairman and Sarah, I may ask a question.
Mhm.
Would it be possible to, I know we did an assessment, there was a larger, I guess, assessment done of the community and it had questions about trash in it. But would it be possible to send it, just sort of do a pre and post about what people understand now, just through Nextdoor? I mean, we have access to software and just to, get some information, assess the community and see what they know now and maybe do like the story stroll and the direct mail and some other types of outreach and see if we were able to raise awareness or improve, I guess, reduce contamination. We could look at different things, but would anyone be interested in that?
Well, in addition, but I think, with this, we kind of know already, Conrad talked about this, I think there was 5 hauls of the water bottle and 2 of them were trash until we started getting some outreach. So I think, based on last year and then comparing it after we do the outreach to, are the hauls increase or the poundage, I guess it wouldn't be tonnage because it's light. And are we having reduction in contamination? Those are the biggest things. And also maybe we're having reduction in calls and confusion about what's allowed in recycling. I know that's, when it comes to plastics, that's the biggest calls I receive. It's plastic confusion.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Roddy.
I would make a motion that we recommend to council approving the funds not to exceed $14,500 for printed material for recycling at the transfer station and signage to advertise recycling programs to the community.
And moved and seconded that we approve up to $14,500 from the Community Recycling Fund for use for outreach. Is there further comments on the motion?
I have just a clarification question. Do you guys just want to do the mailer or are you interested in the story stroll as well?
It was a both. I want to include both things.
Oh, okay, so both things, 15,000.
14,500, yeah.
14,500.
13,935 and 150. I figured 14,500 would cover it.
Gotcha.
And I guess, well, and it goes without saying, of course, that's the authorization, but you said that you were still working with Republic on the exact potential expense, so.
This is actually, these quotes are from 2 local places. I just had a conversation a few hours ago with Rochelle to see, if they could help out. And she said yes, but she would need to go out and see about other quotes. And she was thinking that you could get it a little cheaper, but we're not sure how much. So this would probably be the ceiling right here.
Commissioners, comments on the proposed motion on the Sensing the commission is ready for a vote. All those in favor of recommending to city council that $14,500 from the community recycling fund be used for community outreach, including a flyer and also the yard signs for a story walk, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? The motion passes. Staff, please inform me when when I need to be at city council to go ahead and make that pitch.
I will, and thank you all for listening and considering it. Appreciate it.
I believe that's everything associated with the CRF program overall intent. Unless, oh, that was squishy, that was in relation to the squishy water bottle. Okay, so next item on the old business is a CRFP program overall intent. Sayard, you want to go ahead and pick up this issue?
Yeah, so I would like to write a SOP, standard operating procedures on the program and kind of nail down the language. Right now, it's heavy on the grant, but I feel and I think how we were talking last time is the grant is a portion of the community recycle fund. It's not their community recycle fund. So I think writing it in that way would be helpful. I sent you via email the 2008 program documents. So just curious to know if you agree with those. The main goals of the program via that are from that document talked about the community recycle fund was for programs that reduce, reuse, and recycle and compost, increase community awareness, and increase public recognition of activities. So I think that obviously goes beyond the grant, but the grant is part of it. So I just wanted some direction from you guys so I can start that process of writing the SOP.
There was a copy of the program document that was included in the meeting announcement. So hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at that. Members of the commission, do you have any questions or comments for Sayard to use?
Mr. Chair, Sarah, I just have a question. On the main goals of the program, the reduce, reuse, recycle, et cetera, is that where grants would fit? We'd give folks funds to do those kinds of activities, or would that be grants fit under the public recognition of things that have already happened? Like what kinds of activities, I guess, fit under that first bullet point?
Well, I guess that would be something, a question more for you guys, what you want. I mean, I think the increased public recognition of activities, that sounds more grantish under the grant. You know, the increased community awareness, I think that's kind of what we just talked about with the squishy water bottles. I think we're doing that now. And then the whole, I know the last meeting, some commissioners were interested in just doing recycling. However, this 2018 document goes beyond recycling. And I think Councilwoman Liz Strader asked the question, should we do stuff with reduce or reuse? She's not here today, but I guess, do you want the community recycle fund to look at all these aspects, reduce, reuse, recycle, and composting? And if that's the case, then how would we want to go about doing it? There's, you know.
We gave a portion of funds to the mini library, which was reusing a container. So I think that's an example of how we have utilized funding before.
Mr. Chair, thank you, Commissioner. That's kind of what I'm struggling with in my mind, like, or the grant, because it's not very much money. So for us to do a big community-wide program of some sort around recycling, I don't think that that would get very far. The outreach pieces and letting people know about things that already exist and encouraging recycling, that makes sense to me as that middle bullet. But if grant activities under that first bullet, then what does that bottom bullet mean? Sorry, I'm not more familiar with what those goals are. And does anybody have a distinction?
I believe at this particular point, we're developing the goals. So while it's true in the past, there was pretty much a primary goal of just encouraging recycling in any way, shape, or aspect, whether it be using recycled materials to develop something for the city, such as the artwork that is on the south side of the downtown area, which used some recycled metal, or whether it be, and as we said, using the container, we've used recycled materials for bins for recycled material collection in parks. We've used money for outreach activities such as buying reusable tote bags for handing out to people that are for their shopping. But that is only to say what has happened in the past. There really is no limitation going forward. So now I believe Sayard's asking for your ideas.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roddy.
I would say one of the things that we're lacking is with all the people that are moving here is an understanding of the programmatic steps that we're taking. And I think using our funding to more accurately get that information out to the public would be a boon to things such as recycling. Within said literature, we can have pieces of how to reuse, how to reduce, and how to recycle as we're going through resources for the public. To me, it would seem that our job as the commission would be to most accurately assess how we can get the most bang for the buck, as they say, out of what we're doing, and try to find ways to get out proper messaging and also increase understanding of existing programs.
So, Mr. Chair, I would echo, I guess, what Tom is saying. I think the main goal of the fund seems to me to be most effective if focused on outreach, because it's not a ton of money and it would be the most impactful way to use the money to broadly let the community know about the different programs available, especially as more people move here. We'd want to do an additional mailing next year or time of the year or something like that, is to keep people informed. So that would seem to be most efficient to have a good impact with the limited dollars that we have. So I would suggest a primary focus on outreach.
And Mr. Chair, and I think I kind of argued last month about the reduction, is we kind of generate revenue through recycling material, I think. So my logic was like, well, that's how you generate the revenue. So we encourage more recycling. But after reading through these documents, and it looks like reduction is still a goal. And so it's how do you incentivize folks for less? It's not very tangible that you can go kind of hang on the fact that you like a bench or those sorts of things. And so that's kind of was my logic, but I think I've thought that since then, that yes, we should include reduction, but yes, outreach is probably where we need to be, especially with the influx. It's a continuous project to get us to understand it. And I've been bad about reading all the right templates and the stuff that comes in the mail myself. So I made an effort this year and I've taken advantage of different drops sites, leaves, and I only went to the recycle bin recently or the transfer station and they said, what's a squishy bottle? That means I'm not selling it in my house very well. If nobody knows what that means. Well, that kind of tells us that nobody else does either. Very few people, so.
Commissioner, I would hope that they don't know because you don't use them, but
Touche. But yeah, I'm in line with the outreach being a major focus. And before like I said, I had kind of advocated against reduction, but I stand correct.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Nelson, I know we're focusing on residential outreach and impact, and I know Commissioner Keating had mentioned maybe identifying businesses that are the largest waste generators and working with them to reduce their waste as well. And having an award or having some sort of recognition in the city, whether that's like a brick somewhere, or whether it's just a trophy for them, or whether it's a Walk of Fame in City Hall where we put like bronze stars down for, business champions or something. I think that his idea was great. At first we talked about having businesses compete with one another, and then we decided that's not really, banks aren't going to compete with each other, like having similar industries, offices within a similar industry compete. But then we decided really what they need to do is compete with themselves if possible. And we could hopefully drive down the waste generated in each of these facilities. And what we know is that a lot of businesses just get busy, so they throw everything away because they just don't have the staff in the back of the house sorting out the cardboard or the glass or the plastic or whatever. So I think we have an opportunity to do some outreach with businesses in Meridian as the city really grows. Maybe use some grant funding or community recycling funds to, recognize those businesses. And I know Conrad and I work with businesses on a regular basis to reduce waste, and the school district as well. But, I think that we could do probably a whole lot more, and that's definitely low hanging fruit here in Meridian. And on two side notes, I guess one is that Sayard and I were trying to look at, we've a recycling characterization study. I don't know, Sayard, if you heard back from this, but now we have no studies coming. Like there were two competing groups that were going to come and look at our recycling stream and give us an analysis of what's actually in our stream and how much trash there is and what the type of trash there is. And now it looks like neither one will be conducting a study. So we're back to square one on that. Do you want to add anything to?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, city staff recently did a visit with our local MRF, and they were willing to separate a truck or in the morning and have our recycle be separate, and then we just have to remove it from their facility, maybe take it back to the transfer station, and when we can do our own analysis of that to further define specifically the trash. Because they do have an analysis available of the recycle breakdown, but it's the trash that we want to figure out what recycled materials are being mishandled, and what's the largest contamination. Okay, so maybe that's something staff and Republic Services will work together on.
That won't be till the spring, late spring time. So once things get closer and we get things more fleshed out, we could certainly, give you guys an update.
Sayard, is this helping you on this particular item? You're kind of hearing some information, or do you need this focused at all?
Yeah, it has been helpful. So basically, from the document I sent you, I just took the main bullet points, and that's what you're seeing right now. So what I'm hearing is still the overall arching goal is reduce, reuse, recycle, possibly compost. And one idea to do that is to do community outreach. Idea number two, increase public recognition or a business. And then I think idea 3, which is number 5 on our agenda, would be the grant criteria.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, I think that Sarah's trying to just define almost like an SOP of the use of the funds, not necessarily your plan on how you're going to use the funds in the immediate future, but more of a guideline of how these funds should be used, because the current documentation is just lacking a little bit in that description to help provide guidance as things come up in the future. So I think what we're saying to repeat what she just said, basically was that we have this overarching goal, which reduce, reuse, recycle, maybe compost one day, we'll see. And and then there's 3 different avenues in terms of increasing awareness, public recognition. So that could be an award of some sort for great efforts in the community, as well as a grant program, which you could further design in the future as another avenue. So that would be kind of the summation of the procedural guidance of using the grant funds. Is that correct in what you're saying?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner
just to
Lawson?
clarify my own comment personally, I think our goal is, how I would phrase it is, our goal is reduce, reuse, recycle. I would include compost. We've got leaf bags, we've got grass bins, all of that kind of stuff. So definitely letting people know about those options, the proper way to gather their leaves, so that they can be disposed of correctly. So that's our hope. And the way that we improve those things is through outreach. That's the structure that I see. I'm not necessarily sure I would continue the grant program, given that it's not a lot of money. It fluctuates pretty significantly over time. And what I was trying to say was we could have the most impact by focusing on outreach. That's my personal view on structure. So just to clarify.
So what I'm hearing from you is you're proposing that maybe we get rid of this business grant program and we focus more on outreach and other avenues to work on an overarching goal.
Mr. Chair, I would agree with I can't even talk. I would agree with Commissioner Larson. I think I wouldn't do away with the grant program, but I would kind of move that to the back burner and have that as probably our 3rd option of what we would like to use the funding for. I think most importantly would be to actually get the information out there to the community, get it in places where it doesn't normally go, such as multifamily houses, and really work on cleaning up the stream before we look to increase the stream or add other outlets to it. Let's focus on the thing that we can most tangibly measure in the short term.
I concur.
So are you comfortable with the conversation and kind of knowing where we're going on this item?
Yes, oh, sorry. Yes, I totally understand now. Thank you. So does that mean, do we want to delve into number 5?
We can
Or
segue into item 5 on that. Well,
I mean, if, I guess if you want to do a motion to have the grant as kind of a 3rd option that we might do, but we'll primarily work on the increasing awareness. So I can work on that, and then we can come back some other time and work out how we want the grant program, or I can write up something based on kind of what you guys have been saying in the past and give you a proposal of, if we were deciding to do the grant program, this is an idea of how it can look.
so what I think I'm hearing at this particular point is you're asking whether to go ahead and put the grant program on the shelf for a little bit, or do people want the paperwork to be updated now for it to be considered later?
Yes.
Okay. Comments from the commissioners?
Mr. Chair. I think it would be important to keep the grant program alive, but perhaps change the criteria to not have a time when we advertise that we're accepting grants, but look for these items that are very important and could have a direct impact, and perhaps give them just a little jolt because we're not going to use a large percentage of funding for it, and evaluate them on an as a first come, first served basis with no guarantee of funding. But if we find a truly great grant that can really somehow benefit the community as a whole in the terms of reuse, reuse, or recycle, that we should not pass that opportunity by.
That's motion, I second.
It was, I make a motion that what I just said.
Bill.
Sir.
Is there any aspect of this that's a problem as far as the community recycling fund? The motion has been made that we wouldn't necessarily have grant windows, but instead would go ahead and be aware of opportunities that come up where recycling could be encouraged and used as something as using the anecdotes to go ahead and express the behaviors that recycling is best at. But I guess the question is, do we need to have a defined window, or can we?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I don't believe, I think really the fund keeps sort of rolling along as it is. So I don't really see a problem with that. I do think there will be a point in time that they seem like a better, larger scale opportunity to come along. I recognize there is always that challenge, of finding opportunities beyond but I don't believe there's a requirement or mandate. Figure out something. I think the direction you're going is perfectly fine. Do these programs that are out there, I think I think it's fine. I don't and it may be something you
Mr. Neri, no one can hear you on video at the moment.
Oh.
I think.
You can't hear on this? Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
no.
Oh, I guess I've got to be closer. Sorry. So I don't, anyway, to reiterate, I don't believe you have to. I don't believe you have to pick a date. I think it might make sense for the commission to pick an annual review period that to see, is this a good year? Is this a good opportunity? Should we consider that? Because as the fund continues to grow, you're going to have a big backlog of funds. And again, that may be the opportunity to say, when you get to this number, let's think of something else.
Mr. Chair,
Sayard. Oh,
that was me.
Mr. Larson.
Thank you. I am a little concerned about transparency. From what I understand from Commissioner Audie's motion, it's a little bit of a handpick by SWAC who the recipients are of the funding are. I'd be more comfortable with a rolling cycle where people are aware that there's an opportunity and they could submit applications and so forth. So I would not be able to support the motion as stated. I'd like to see something a little more fleshed out. I'm just a little concerned about transparency.
Commissioner Audie, actually, the chair would appreciate you restating your motion so that I know.
Certainly. To restate the motion, Mr. Chair, my motion would be to not have a defined period when people have to get those applications in, but to have just an open period where we can continuously receive applications and review them without having that window to apply. So it would just be a rolling any time we receive an application, we could review it with staff and really flesh out the efficacy before we decide whether or not to spend the funds on it and say, is this the right time to use the funding on X, and then bring it to it without having that short window of application.
Okay, so we've now heard the motion, and Commissioner Larson, would
Mr.
that
Chair,
help?
Commissioner, thank you for that clarification. Yes, I think as long as we're, posting on the website or something that this grant program exists, you can apply anytime, et cetera, then I'm much more comfortable with that. Thank you.
Members of the commission, is there additional comments on the motion that was made?
Second it.
Any further comments? Okay, so the motion,
Quick question.
Oh,
Is there going
sure.
to be a limit, a funding limit that we should just have? That we, like, if I'm going to do outreach, say I send out information or we have stuff on the website, are we going to have anything that says, oh, you want to increase recycling, whatever, at your multi-unit or business, you can get up to X amount of, $2,000 to help start something. Is that something that you want to consider, or is it just case by case?
Mr. Chair, may I amend my motion one more time? Going for a record. All the previous things about the time period with the funding amount not to exceed $5,000. That way we still have a good solid amount. It's designed more to just help people get off the ground, but it is not supposed to finance a long-term program.
thank you, Rand. That saves me one more thing of checking to see if the second agrees with the amended motion. And where we go on this is that I then ask, is there any dissent? Is there any member of the commission that would not allow that amended motion to be placed before us? Seeing no dissent, then yes, Tom, that is the motion that is before us, that it continue to be open, that we receive grant applications, but that they not exceed $5,000. Further comments by commissioners? Sensing the commission is ready for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? The motion passes. Thank you. That was item 5, grant criteria, correct? Which the next item, CRFP, community outreach material price quotes, that has been continued to the February 2022 meeting. So that completes our old business. We are at an item of just checking to see if there's any outstanding items. And one thing that does exist that came up after our agenda setting is that today was the quarterly county swap meeting. And I do want to go ahead and forward to you some information. The county has floated to us a draft rate schedule for FY23, and they are soliciting comments. It's a single page item. I'm going to go ahead and have it forwarded to all of you for your review of comments to be funneled back to SAYARD, because comments will come from the city of Meridian to the county. And I believe, again, if we could go ahead and have those comments to her by Thanksgiving, the county is actually going to address the comments, and this will be picked up at the next county SWAC meeting at the end of January. But if you could, I'm going to put this request in for doing this by Thanksgiving so that it doesn't languish and get forgotten. And the other item that was interesting to me that you may have some questions on is the effects of the fire that occurred adjacent to the landfill. the Goose Creek fire. The area of impact was in the buffer zone. There's a lot of ecological areas that are up there. It didn't actually go on to the landfill footprint per se. What did? You know, I think it would be very good for me at this particular point to defer to Tom Audi to go ahead and make sure that you have a good feeling for that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you're all probably aware, about 3 weeks ago, there was the Goose Creek fire. It started in, in the Eagle Bike Park, which is adjacent to landfill property. The fire burned a relatively small amount, about 450 acres, about 311 which were on landfill property. Luckily, the fire did not go to areas where trash was buried. We've got pretty good buffer zones around that, but it did destroy quite a bit of the natural habitat that the landfill has reserved as natural habitat. Landfill is right now working through how to replenish that area, reseed, what the reseeding plans will be, and how we can do that in the quickest and most ecologically sound way. So just so everyone is aware, there was no structures were damaged, no lives were threatened. It did bring to the attention of current landfill staff that there was no outreach, and there was no outreach way to let anyone know that the landfill is closing, that there was an emergency at the landfill, of anything like that. So the landfill is currently developing a communications plan for any eventual emergencies at the landfill to go out to all the stakeholders, which would include the cities and the major contractors within the county, just to let everyone know what the situation is when the landfill is shut down, when the landfill reopens to accept material.
Well, as mentioned, that was kind of reassuring to go ahead and hear that we didn't have any direct impacts, I mean, to the disposed material, but that there were lessons learned and that the landfill is actually on top of those and is proceeding with those. And I guess I will go ahead and expand that at this point. Well, there were a number of other items that were covered, but I think those are the key ones that I wanted to make sure the commissioners were aware of. Commissioner Roddy, you want to give me a, a prod if there's something you think, yeah, okay. And with that, then the question is, are there any items of business that still need to be brought before this meeting of the Solid Waste Commission? And obviously, our next meeting is January 22nd, so I won't be seeing you until next year, but as always, if there are issues that we need to pick up, put those, submit those issues to myself or to Sarah as we get together and generate the agenda for the next meeting. That'd be on or about the 12th of January. And with that, we have completed all the business that's on the agenda. So I think I can go ahead and declare this meeting adjourned. And once again, I thank you for another year of service.